Hi, this is Hamada and welcome to Final 50, where I travel to the last 50 countries on Earth. And today I want to do a behind the scenes of the country of Papua New Guinea so that you can avoid those common mistakes and maximize your time in the country. So let's get started. Now, Papua New Guinea is one of the most diverse ecological and cultural countries in the world. And in fact, it is the most diverse linguistically in the world. It's the 7th largest island, and Forbes nominated this country as one of the most beautiful to visit. And there is so much to see here in all the different islands of the country. Now let's do two facts and a fiction. There's an island off the coast of Papua New Guinea that may become the world's newest country. Number two, there are certain tribal men in Papua New Guinea that wear a sheath to protect their penises. And number three, cannibalism is still practiced in Papua New Guinea. If you want to know the answer, wait till the end of the video to find out. Now, here are the goals of my trip. I knew that if I wanted to go to Papua New Guinea, I would need to spend plenty of time to get to the different islands, and I didn't have that time. Plus, there are so few roads that connect the main cities and the main areas of Papua New Guinea because of how lush the vegetation is and how poor the infrastructure is generally. So to get to one place to the other, you've got to use airplanes, and I would be pretty much leaving my luck to the aviation gods if I did that. So I pretty much stayed in and around the capital of Port Moresby to really discover the nature, the culture, the vibe of the country. So that was pretty much my goal. Make sure to check out the vlog, which I'll put in the end cards, so you can get a better sense of everything I did on this 72 hours in Papua New Guinea. Now, let's dig a little deeper on the logistics of the trip. So let's start with getting to the country. Now, I was in Melbourne competing for my first half Ironman, and I decided, since I'm in the region, let's go explore another country. Papua New Guinea was on the radar, so I decided to do it. So what I did was I flew from Melbourne to Brisbane and then from Brisbane to Port Moresby. And the way I did it is I used Qantas, super reliable, super easy, no delays, very, very reliable airline. So I definitely recommend that. There's only a couple of countries in terms of how you can get to Port Moresby. You don't want to get to Port Moresby or Papua New Guinea from one of the neighboring South Pacific islands because it gets very expensive. So you pretty much want to do it like from Manila, Singapore, Australia, these countries that will get you there, hopefully on a cheaper flight. Now, I'm moving safety to the top of the list because obviously that's a main concern for a lot of people who go to Papua New Guinea. And the reality is, personally, in my experience, I didn't feel and I didn't necessarily encounter any dangers. Because of what I had heard, I really erred on the side of caution. So what I did is after nightfall, I would just pretty much go back to my hotel room and just veg out, watch movies and relax. Now, in terms of the hotel and accommodations, there are a number of places and a number of hotels in Port Moresby, but I decided to stay in Ella Beach. I did some research and I found that that was probably one of the most tourist-friendly areas. There's a lot of restaurants in and around that area. It's safe, it's on the beach, which was great. It definitely served its purpose. Wasn't super cheap, but definitely served its purpose, and I definitely felt safe there. In terms of getting around, in terms of transportation, it's tough. There are taxis everywhere, but they're out to make a quick dime. So you've got to pretty much ask a security guard or the hotel reception and ask them to hail a cab for you and negotiate the price before you go where you want to go. One of the things I wanted to do was have a car with me pretty much through the entire journey per day, so that I don't have to keep trying to hail taxis. And it definitely, the first day it worked. I had a guy, I reserved him, everything worked out. But the second day he was meant to show up, he never did. And I pretty much called an audible, was able to get one of the security guards to get me a taxi. We negotiated the price, we negotiated how long the guy's gonna be with me in the destination, and it worked out. But you definitely wanna be kind of on your A game. And if you can get a tour company or someone to help you arrange all this stuff, super important, okay? And in terms of the cost, again, Papua New Guinea you'd think would be cheap, but it's not. Look, the GDP per capita is about $3,000. People make about $300-400 working in hotels, like in good jobs. So you'd think it's cheaper, but it is expensive. I think because there's so many expats coming there, to work on different resources, minerals, oil and gas and so forth. And so they bump up the prices at hotels, at restaurants and so forth. And I think the locals end up just kind of eating at home and doing their own thing and not really going out as often. So that's just something to think about. And in terms of planning the trip, if you really want to see Papua New Guinea, if you really want to go to different places, you cannot land and wing it. You really have to plan it well. I tried my best, and because of time constraints, budget constraints, and so forth, I really couldn't veer too far away from the capital. If I had a week or two, I would have probably booked flights to go to different parts of the island, like the highest point, Mount Hagen, I believe it's called. I would have probably tried to do the whole Kokoda trail, the Kokoda trail, which I'll talk a little bit about. I would have definitely planned it better. So you definitely want to plan it, and if you can get a tour company, if you can afford it, or if you have a lot of time, plan it accordingly, because you don't want to kind of wing it, land there, and expect things to kind of come together. All right, here are the 5 don'ts of Papua New Guinea. Number 1, be careful at night in Port Moresby. Do not go out alone, because there's incidences of petty theft and crime. If you do go out with a local guide. Number 2, people chew betel nut quite often, spit it out everywhere. Do not mess with anyone's betel nut, the actual thing itself, because people can get upset. Number 3, don't rely too much on getting from one place to another on time. Number 4, be careful. When you go hiking, don't go hiking alone, especially places like the Kokoda Trail, because it could get dangerous. There could be rain, winds, the elements can really kind of deep six and ruin your trip. So be careful when going hiking alone. And number 5, when tipping, typically in Papua New Guinea, people do not tip in the city. If you go to little villages and they're putting on demonstrations for you, they'll have a tip jar, put it in there, but people see tipping sometimes as rude, so be careful of that. So I want to provide you with a couple of highlights of the trip. One of them was going to the Varavata National Park, which is about 50 kilometers outside the city center of Port Moresby. And the drive there is just absolutely stunning. Incredible vegetation, little mountains and so forth that really stand out, and something I hadn't seen before. When you get there, you have this incredibly majestic view of all that kind of countryside, almost looks Jurassic, absolutely stunning. So if you have some time, definitely make a day trip out of that. Along the route, another highlight was stopping by the cemetery from World War II, where they had buried a lot of the Australians, Kiwis from New Zealand, Americans and so forth that had died defending Papua New Guinea during World War II against the Japanese. Very kind of somber, but something that really was very nice. Another highlight was at night in Ella Beach, the whole area just comes to life. All these youth, kids and so forth come out and they're playing rugby on the beach, football, basketball, running around, skateboarding, rollerblading, really cool. And it just made me feel like, wow, what hope, because people are not just sitting around on their phones and stuff like that, but they're coming out there and playing sports and really engaging with one another. Another highlight was visiting the National Museum, which I thought was amazing. Really well done, kind of in the city center, and you get a good sense of all the different 200-300 different cultures that they have there. Like they had shells that they used to use as currencies instead of kina, which is their currency now. You know, you see like totem poles and just statues and all kinds of incredible stuff that really kind of speaks to the culture and the history of the country that is just so rich and vibrant. Especially that I wasn't able to travel to the other parts of the country. So I thought it was really great to be able to see it there and housed in one location. I have to say, the moment for me was hiking the Kokoda Trail, which is this kind of trail that runs from almost, I would say, from north to south of the main island. And it takes about 9 days to kind of traverse it. And a lot of Australians and New Zealanders and so forth, even Americans, Canadians, come out there to pay homage to their grandparents and great-grandparents who had fought in the war. And they hike the whole trail, 9 days. And it is no joke, it's not for the faint of heart. And we are now just over 2 hours. And this guy, I'm showing him what iraqis are made out of. Because I'm pushing, baby. I decided to go out there and just do the first leg, kind of like the first day, which typically takes about 3.5 hours to do. Kind of slow pace, but for whatever reason, I really got excited. I had an amazing guide with me, and we just kind of hiked out there. We did it in about an hour and 45 minutes or so, got to the end of the first leg. And just along the route, you kind of thought about all the things that these people had gone through to defend this territory, to prevent it from being used by the Japanese as a kind of a footbridge to invade Australia. So really it's somber, but exciting, and something, if you have the chance, do the whole trek. If you don't, just at least check it out and do the first leg of it. It really is worth it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this behind the scenes of the country of Papua New Guinea. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. I'd love to hear from you and also help you if you decide to travel to Papua New Guinea, especially in the Port Moresby area. Also, check out the vlog that provides more detail to my journey. I really enjoyed putting it together, and I hope you will also enjoy it and get a good sense of what I did when I was in Papua New Guinea. Now, I'm sure you've been waiting for this. Here is the fiction. Cannibalism is no longer practiced in the country of Papua New Guinea. It stopped sometime in the 1950s, but it was prevalent in different islands of Papua New Guinea for many centuries. That means the two facts are, yes, there is an island off the coast of Papua New Guinea that recently had a referendum in 2019, and they requested to be independent. And number two fact, well, I'll leave you. These guys are definitely packing a punch. Check it out. That is the sheath that some of the tribes wear when they go in different parts of Papua New Guinea. Well, thank you very much for watching. Stay curious, and I look forward to seeing you on my next journey.